Okay, so are there any questions for Simba? Okay, Glitchy Reptile, you're up first. Whenever you're ready, unmute your mic and ask your question.
Well, there is this question I want to ask. How does it really feel to become a furry? Like, how does that feel for you?
I think a relief is the best way to put it. I have a home. I no longer feel as lonely as I did when I was younger. I have people who care for me. I wasn't kidding when I said it saved my life. It's that stronger feeling.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions? Yes, there are. Siegmeyer, whenever you're ready.
Hey, I was just wondering, like, what do you think differentiates the furry fandom from from like other online fandoms? Like, what makes the furry fandom unique to you?
I think, particularly the case in the furry fandom, we all know some sort of rejection. I think in many ways that's why we end up here. We all sort of escape from whatever we've got going on in real life, and we end up here. I honestly, that's the one that appeals to me. Potentially in another lifetime, I would have ended up in another fandom with people which I'm sure are just as equally supportive. So I'm not particularly sure there's anything unique about the people here, and they're wonderful. But I'm sure that in any other fandom with similarly sort of isolated people who came together for the reasons that I've mentioned about having a family and people who care for them, I'm sure they'd be equally supportive. Of course, the thing that sets apart, I guess we have persona, but that's just what a furry is, I suppose.
Thank you. Flabberjack.
Well, I can say, like, I'm not a furry at all, really. I was just friends with Losfy, and she said, "Hey, look, I need help with puzzles. Can you come here?" So, I haven't got really look, I'm a human being. Like, I haven't got a problem with anyone. You know what I mean? You haven't done anything wrong to me. I haven't done anything wrong to you. What do you think causes the negative outlook on the furry community? Like, why is it that, just in general, why do people agree with it?
I think I think people disagree with it because they don't understand it, and because media likes to sell a story, and the best stories are, hey, look at those fucking weirdos at the furry convention having sex with each other. And that's 10% of furries, roughly, I believe it is, have a fursuit. We're not like that in reality, but the reality doesn't sell. And I think that's why the public has a negative perception. As much as anything, as I've said, the people who tend to be drawn to furry are socially a bit strange, and that's okay. They're not doing anything wrong. They're just a bit weird. And so people don't understand them. And that's why I think, they get the negative sort of
I think just people just judge it by your appearance, really, instead of what's underneath the suit, really, in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Right, are there any more questions? Else?
With the advent of the internet and the ability to connect socially with other people, is furry a response to a modern form of relationship or an advanced take on long-distance relationships that can provide healthier social dynamics and relationships for people?
I would say that they're different concepts, but furries are certainly people who would benefit from such a system. I think as the internet becomes more widespread and quick, the world shrinks, and hence dating someone in Australia or America, for me now as a British person, is not viewed as with quite the same spuriousness as it may have been in my parents' days. I think it can only be a good thing, but I think at the same time we need to have a certain amount of perspective and realize that the internet is the internet, and it's still important to see people face to face and disengage from the digital world sometimes, so that we may not let actual reality pass us by. And I don't mean to disparage internet as not being real, but it's certainly the case that the real world has a lot of good stuff in it. The face-to-face world has a lot of good stuff if people are willing to go out and experience it as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
plenty of questions. Fudgy, whenever you're ready. Nice to see you here for the first time. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you for the speech, Simba. It was very good and very informative.
Thank you.
From my point of view, in relation to what you were saying, I come from a small community. We're in Ireland. We just about got colour TV. Sounds silly. I'm not joking. When I'm from a farm, so the furry side just happened, like it does with most of us.
Yeah.
How did you find reacting to other people? Like over here, if something like that was said, if you brought that out to the public, so to speak, or friends outside of the fandom, that would go down very negative.
Yeah. So you're basically, for people that I know in real life who are not furries, when they find out I'm a furry, how do they react? Is that sort of what you're asking?
Yes, because over here, it would be seen very negative.
Yeah,
they don't understand. They don't know what it's about.
It's very much the same here. I live in a fairly large city, but if you went around and told people in my city I'm a furry, they'd think you're a fucking weirdo. If you said you were gay, they wouldn't like that either in a lot of cases. We're moving in the right direction, but I think it depends on your crowd. If I was to go to the game store where they play Magic or D&D, yeah, they'd be probably okay with it. But yeah, on the street, the average member of the public is going to think that's really strange. Which is a shame, but again, it comes back to what the media portray us as, rather than what we really are, because the story sells at the end of the day.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cool. Are there any more questions? Scotia, the floor is yours.
Hey, Simba.
Hey, Scotia.
Spoken to you a few times before. I've never seriously asked you a question. This is a first for me. In your experience, I know you probably got at least a few years on me, and I'm still relatively new to the community. In your experience publicly, if you've done anything publicly, I'm not sure if you have, how has personal interactions with other furries been? For me, I've had very positive experiences, but that's because I've met very few who were very, very, I would say, flamboyant. I'm just wondering. I'm wondering what your take on things is and how your experience has been in simply real world application.
Yeah. I think it really can vary. I went to my first fur meets when I was 15 or 16, and I was still very, very, very poor socially at those times. And I went along and I sat in the pub with the rest of the people, and I basically didn't say anything to anyone, but I felt like I was at home there in a sense. Even though I was sort of on my own still, I felt like these people are like me. And it gave me a sense of community, where now I'm much more well developed socially. I go to the fur meet, and weirdly enough, I'm the most social one there. You tell that to my parents 15 years ago, they think you ain't going to be a social one anywhere. But over time, I think people change, people develop, and you can sort of see the variety in that sense at a fur meet or at a furry convention. You'll find some people there are very quiet; they keep themselves to themselves. Some people much more extroverted, much like any community. I would advise, if you are to go to something like that, if you don't have much face-to-face furry experience, make sure you go with a friend or know at least one person who will be there, because they can be a bit cliquey, especially the sort of smaller fur meets where you'll get groups of 5 or 6 who sort of know each other already. And if you know 1 or 2 people, they can sort of integrate you with that, and you'll have a better time like that. Yeah, that would be my advice if you want to get started with that sort of thing.
Thank you. That's all I was really wondering.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Scotia. Okay, that's the last question there. Thank you for all your good questions there. They were very informative.